What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
your energetic co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
It's been a while since we've done an episode on energy. I feel like I've had a great balance of energy, especially with having a baby and a toddler at home, which is pretty crazy. So I've had to get pretty in deep with like my habits and optimizing for energy. And I really sat down, I picked probably my 11 biggest tips to really have sustainable energy, to have consistent energy throughout the day. So if you're hitting a wall or you find you're just groggy at 3 p.m. and you can't recover from there and your day's shot, this episode is going to aim to fix it. So once again, this is going to be how to stop feeling tired all day and have more energy. And we're going to go tip by tip with my top tips. So make sure you stay to the end too, because some of my favorites are towards the end of this episode. But for the first one, and this is a big one, I actually want to start with a story, is to take time to make yourself feel better. So even the other day, when I was like kind of getting ready for the day and whatnot, my wife kind of seemed all worked up, like a little, and she's like, there's so much going on and this house is a mess. I got to clean this. We have to do this, that, the other. We've got a renovation going on. There's a lot of moving parts. Like you could just tell she was overwhelmed. And I'm like, well, why don't you go like take a second for yourself, like go on a walk or something like that. And she's like, there's no time. I need to clean this kitchen. And I've been there too, when you're just like overwhelmed, you don't know where to start. But I was like, listen, okay, go for a run. She never goes for runs. She used to run back and they've been like, just go for a tiny run. You're not going for a run to actually like hit any milestones or anything here. You just want to shake it up, have a different output, like clear your head, no music. It's going to be a little bit boring, but it's going to ground you, and the house isn't going to blow up if it's not clean this second. Like, let me see how I can help. Let's work to find a solution here. And she pushed against it. Then of course she went and did it, and she's like, okay, I actually feel way better. And what's interesting is I think this is just such a good example of, it's so easy to put ourselves last. So we'll know we have a million things to do. We'll even prioritize sometimes the wrong things, like scrolling Instagram. Like, I'm so overwhelmed, I need to scroll for a bit to take a break, when perhaps you'd feel better to go on a walk, clear your head, think through things, get some endorphins, and start to like reasonably schedule things out, perhaps going back to a routine. So if you know that something needs more attention, it's like, can I maybe take away, or maybe I need to take a rest day today to get the house in order, because that's going to get my head right, or tackle that big project at work, or say, hey, Josh, I need you to do this bit of cleaning. Do you have time to help me out today so I can feel better? So this is a big one, because I just think it's too easy to put ourselves last. And when we do that, like, you're going to feel more tired. You're going to actually have less energy. And just the same, if you're staying up late doing something you shouldn't, you should be prioritizing that sleep. You should be prioritizing getting a workout in. Like, these things seem counterintuitive, like that run example. It seems counterintuitive to take away time, but it actually can reground you and centralize you and put you in a better mindset. So being honest about that and doing what will actually move the needle and help you improve. And a big example of this, we will get to this later, but for myself, very often, like, I'll come home, I'll be tired, it'll be like that midday awkward time. Like, the last thing I want to do is be active, but I know if I go and do something active just for a second, that'll make me feel better, that'll drive up the energy. Even the other day, I was just feeling not my best, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my son, we're going to go to the park. Went to the park, I watched him play, and like, I felt so much better, and like my energy bounced right back. So be honest with yourself, take that time to actually make yourself feel better. Sometimes make the hard decision, take a step back, take a pause, ground yourself. But this is a big one. And like, this mindset shift will help you more than you know. And that's why I want it to be number one.
Yeah. And this next one is a massive one as well. And it is simply just wake up when you're supposed to wake up. So I know a lot of people who will think that if they were to stay in bed for a bit longer or hit the snooze button a few times, that's going to leave them feeling more rested. I can promise you it will not. I know from experience, I'm sure some of you as well. I don't think there's been a time in the last few years where I've stayed in past my alarm, and it just makes me feel worse. Like, I can think back on those moments where I would stay in bed a bit longer. You know, subconsciously it does a lot. It tells you that your goals don't mean as much, there's not as much important stuff you need to do, and just simply not getting up right away is just one of the worst habits you can have. That's going to lead to you feeling less energetic, just feeling a little bit overtired. It's just not a good feeling. So whatever time you set your alarm for, jump out of bed, turn the alarm off, get started. I promise you, you'll feel so much more energetic than if you were to stay in bed for a little bit longer.
Fantastic. Now that you've shown yourself you can wake up on time and you're not compromising for low quality sleep, or you keep hitting an alarm every 10 minutes, that's just going to make you feel better in the moment, not long term. And that's actually going to cause you to feel more groggy. And also consider that when you're sleeping for like 8 hours and your body's recovering, it's thinking, it's dreaming, it's repairing, there's a lot going on in that time, and you're actually going to dehydrate yourself naturally. And that's when you wake up, most often you are thirsty. But too often people neglect having water first. Maybe they'll reach for that coffee, which is actually going to cause some more dehydration. Of course, you're getting some liquid, but there's no better start than having a glass of water first thing in the morning. That's always the first thing I run to. And if you're actually in a big deficit, you could even put a little salt in there as well, and that will further hydrate you quicker. So there's a couple opportunities you can have for that, but more than anything else, just making sure to hydrate yourself. And this was actually one of the components of our challenge, our summer challenge that we did with our clients. And this is one thing that changed the game for tons of our clients. They're like, it's insane how much better I felt hydrating myself in the morning. And we all know the negatives that come from dehydration, right? You can feel more hungry, you can get headaches, you can be just quite a mess. And water is such an important hidden process of something our body needs that's too easy to neglect. So one of the best things you can do is start with that glass of water and then carry that momentum to make sure you're not dehydrated throughout the day. And you'd be amazed the impact this will have on your energy.
Yeah. And next up, simply put, you want to go for a walk. And this doesn't have to be anything crazy, not an hour-long walk. I know Josh shared the afternoon walk before, which I'm such a big fan of, especially because in the afternoon, truthfully, that is when I start to feel a little bit lower energy after a long day of work, like my brain, thinking a lot, filming a lot, all that other stuff. And for me at that time, I don't want to have caffeine because it'll affect my sleep. I also don't want to take a nap because I just feel worse after. I don't take naps at all. So that afternoon walk, like 15, 20 minutes, sometimes longer, is so game changing for me. And then also every single morning trying to get out there. I don't do long ones. I do maybe 15 minutes. But even the other day, I remember waking up feeling a little bit low energy, just not feeling my best. And I actually actively paid attention to how I felt before and after the walk. And it was just game changing. I felt like I was a completely different person. So this alone is like my secret hack. If I were to just do anything to try to bring up my energy, it's not coffee, of course, that can help. It's not laying down and scrolling. That will not help 100%. It's just getting out there, getting some sunshine, even if it's cloudy. Like, I promise you, if you get out there, you will feel better. And I know a lot of people who just think like, man, like I'm going to be tired. Like that's not what my body needs. Like I shouldn't be moving. I should be relaxing. I promise you, it's just so great for you. And this alone can give you so many different energy boosts throughout the day. A couple minute walk consistently throughout the day is so game changing.
Yeah. Any productivity podcast you could ever listen to will just speak about the power of getting out and having sunlight exposure in the morning. And a great way to do that is go on a walk. Because if you walk outside and you stand and stare at the sun for 10 minutes, you might look like a bit of a weirdo. Walk's a nice way to kind of ground yourself, think through the day. Don't grab your phone. I just find it's a nice way to sprinkle in some movement, get excited, get grounded for the day. And my next tip, and really it should be the first tip, is having more energy starts with sleep. And it's hard to really be on top of sleep. And I understand sleep can be divisive in the sense where it's hard to let go of things we like to do. You might say, I work really hard. It takes forever to put my kids to sleep. Like, I need that last little bit to watch TV or scroll Instagram, or even if it's something productive, but do something for yourself at the expense of your sleep. And I can totally understand that. But if you're under rested, you're going to be more tired. You can patch it, but it's like patching holes on a boat that's sinking. It's just not realistic. Like, this is something you need to prioritize. You need to maintain all the best practices. So you want to have a cool, dark room, a consistent schedule. You want to aim for the deepest quality sleep possible. So limiting caffeine and alcoholic drinks as much as possible before bed, and just being consistent with that schedule, and really being hesitant to accumulate too much sleep debt. That's when you have enough bad sleeps to where it's going to be hard for you to recover. You're going to feel tired. And then, like I said, if you begin to try to patch that with temporary measures, that's just going to ultimately lead you to feeling worse. So it's really important you prioritize sleep. Like, if you actually notice you've been overly fatigued throughout the day, there's something you need to look to do and make a priority. And like anything else, it will take work, but the more you begin to work on it, the more you can begin to improve it and ultimately have more energy. And as you gain more energy, you'll gain more momentum, more excitement, and it just makes it easier to do.
Yeah, next up, you want to make sure not to overthink being tired. This is something I'm such a big fan of because I remember I used to let statistics dictate how I felt. And what I mean by this is like devices such as the Fitbit. That's what I've always had. There's the Whoop Watch, there's Aura Rings. There's a lot of things that are going to tell you how you should feel throughout the day. I'm a big fan of data, but at the same time, when you're constantly thinking about it, and let's say something specific where it's like you consistently see in the app or even yourself, you just say, man, that was such a bad sleep. And then I see Josh and I'm telling him about my sleep, and I go to lunch and I'm talking about my sleep, and then that's all I'm thinking about. It's just going to make you feel worse. And I do think it's important to face the reality of like, hey, maybe I just didn't have the best sleep. Maybe I was up a little bit later. Maybe my kids were up or whatever happened. Like, I get it's important to be able to face that and make changes next time to maybe go to bed earlier or focus on what you can control. But if all you're thinking about is the sleep quality and what went on and everything like that, like it's just going to kill you. So I really try during those times where I know I got less sleep, whether I chose to or whether I didn't choose to, and it just happened. I just try not to think about it too much. And that has helped me so much of just being like, hey, I'm good. I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm totally good. And it helps me a lot. So that alone, like not overthinking being tired makes such a big difference.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy, right? You're like, oh, Joy, that's the solution. Just stop overthinking it. But it's so true. The more you say, I'm tired, I'm underslept, I can't train hard today, I'm tired, I don't know if I can focus, you start to believe it. It's crazy. And I remember one day in particular, like 2 years ago, there's this weird light on out in this place. We're in Florida and I just got to bed late and there's a lot going on. I just had horrible sleep. I remember it was just the worst ever. And instead I'm like, I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm going to make it through the day. I'm going to have another opportunity to sleep tonight. And I'm going to do everything I can to work against that. So I woke up, had a cold shower, watched some motivational videos, ate a great breakfast, did some breath work, which is my next tip. So if you actually just do some deep breathing, and science has shown even a couple of minutes of deep breathing can greatly change your energy and your attitude. But by doing this, like I just started to believe that I felt better and I went through the motions of the day. I got a little fatigued later at night, but life went on and here we are. And I just thought it was a good example where I like took control instead of just saying, oh, I had the worst sleep ever. I'm going to skip the gym. I'm not going to eat healthy. I'm going to lay around. I'm going to do all these weird things that wouldn't make me ultimately feel better. So if you can, like, you got to try to ignore it. And I think this is a real skill when you have kids, like, cause there's just so much out of your control, especially with a newborn baby or even sometimes puppies, like different things, right? It's just so hard, but the less you can dwell on it and the more you can still try to do what will make you feel better, even if it is muted a little bit. Like if you go to the gym and perhaps you can't go to full intensity, but you still get in there, you get a sweat, you challenge yourself, you eat good meals, like all those things will pay off more than ever. And then doing the breath work is huge. One thing I love doing personally is the box breathing method, or it's called the 4 square breathing method. Quite simply, you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And if you do this for like 2, 3, 4 minutes, it's amazing how much better you feel. And this is something the Navy SEALs actually use to regain focus. It's really quick. It's really snappy. It's easy to remember. You could do it in the sauna. You could do it at home. You could do it at the car. So don't neglect breath work. It sounds silly until you start doing it, and then you can realize how amazing it is. I also love the Wim Hof method. I find that grounds me. That gives me energy. It gets my head clear. So doing some breathing is super, super amazing to actually increase your energy, especially if you're feeling fatigued. If you lay down, do some breathing, it's amazing how it just gets you clear and it gets you excited and it will give you that extra little burst.
Yeah, next up, we're going to want to eat better. And this isn't just going to change your body physically, but mentally and just your overall energy. There's so much correlation to your quality of food, the macronutrients, the micronutrients. Everything you're consuming will dictate your energy levels. So you want to make sure not only for how you look and whatnot, but how you feel. You're hitting more protein, you're having more veggies, you're having more micronutrients, so like more fiber. These things make such a big difference. I know so many people who are very low energy. When I were to review their diet and what they had, they've gone through the drive-through a few times. They've maybe gotten some really greasy fast food. Their protein's very low. I promise you, this alone actually makes such a big difference, especially for those people who are really busy. Like, it can be hard to pinpoint what exactly is going on, especially if you're, let's say, a labor worker. I know a lot of labor workers are very lazy with their approach. Like, they'll usually be in the worst places just because they're, burning a ton of calories and they're low on time, and they're just like always going to McDonald's and all these other places. And even like busy parents, they'll go through drive-thrus on their kids' way for sports and all this other stuff, and they're wondering why they're so low energy. And you might blame it on your work and your kids and other things, and yes, that could play a role, but the overall quality of what you're feeding yourself is just not ideal at all, and that's not contributing to how you're going to feel beneficial, like in a positive way, just a negative way. So eat better, focus on the overall tenets of just like high quality food, homemade meals if possible. Like that alone will increase your energy levels, and all of these things combined will absolutely help. But you can't just focus on one thing and expect it all to get better. They all have to be combined to see long-term energy benefits.
Yeah, and a bonus with this too is like to try to limit massive meals. I like the Thanksgiving analogy because it's perfect. If anyone's had a huge Thanksgiving meal, you're like, I'm ready to sleep. Like I got to sit down and digest. And I love eating a ton of food. I love eating big meals, but I've really been challenging myself just to eat till I'm satisfied or full, never stuffed, because it's hard to come back from that. When you have these huge meals, it really changes the swings in your attitude and your energy. And like, it just takes so much effort to digest, especially like Kyle said, if you're eating garbage, you never feel good from that. Whereas when you're eating really healthy, high quality meals that are full of fiber and protein, you'll be consuming less calories. It'll still be really sating. It'll still be really fun. And it's amazing how much more it energizes you and how much lighter you feel. Like we just had a huge bowl with a ton of veggies, chicken, rice. I'm feeling fantastic. So it'd be a very different podcast if I just had like a foot long or double foot long sub or something crazy like that. So these are where you want to begin to identify these things, and you can play around with different levels of how much you eat, when you eat, and see what actually feels best for your energy. Now that we've done a lot of these great tips, there's nothing wrong with caffeinating strategically. I like caffeine. It's a tool. It's been proven as a tool to produce energy. I like to wait in the morning a little bit to have my caffeine at least 30 minutes, ideally closer to an hour. I don't always have the discipline for that, but I do find that gets me energized. I enjoy having it while I'm excited to begin my day and do some work and get in the flow. I've been utilizing pre-workout again lately to give myself an extra boost. Once again, with caffeine, you want to be careful, because if you have too much of it, and cause you to be more anxious, and it can actually become counterproductive, where it'll become like a negative towards your sleep. So that's where you want to be very, very careful with it, because it can indeed become a little bit of a negative catalyst if you're having too much and you're taking away from your sleep. But if you've had a really tough day and you need a little extra caffeine for that workout, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit more if you're in those strategic balances, or maybe having a third cup of coffee instead of just two. But I try to keep my caffeine threshold as low as I can. And on the days where I need less, I've had a great sleep, I'm having tons of energy, I'll try to have a little bit less. But this can absolutely be a tool in your toolbox to help you feel better. But most often, like at a 3 p.m. or something, which is usually the big hump, that's where you'll do better to not resort to caffeine or something like that, because a little bit later in the day, and you'll actually benefit from just getting out, being active, going on a walk. And I ironically say, I think I gain more energy from going on a walk most often than I do caffeine, and I love caffeine.
Yeah, next up, you want to make sure to work towards your purpose and live a fulfilling life. So I'll never forget, the quote is from Tom Bilyeu, the founder of Quest Nutrition. I think he's a billionaire now. I have it saved in my favorites folder on my phone because I always just see it. And he's holding up a sign, and basically he said, "You're not burnt out because you're tired. You're burnt out because you're doing too little of what inspires you." Like, pretty much paraphrasing that, but that's more or less what he had said. And I just thought it was so powerful, because I feel like there's so many times we're burnt out, or we say we're low energy, but we're just running from one place to another, just doing a bunch of random things that we're not meant to do. And I get it. Like, we have to pay our bills. We have to do a bunch of different things, like work-wise, that we may not really look forward to, but at the same time, we also have the control to do things that we enjoy. Like, if you like playing an instrument that really, really pumps you up, awesome, do that. Like, maybe start a band with some friends. Like, that's just a random example. Like, do some more coloring, do some art stuff. Like, find what you enjoy, whether it's a sport, whether it's anything. Like, I know that when my energy's like, I'm really energetic when I'm doing the most stuff that I enjoy, like creating content, filming these podcasts, helping clients, like doing all these great things. I get so fired up, like when I feel like I'm helping and I'm like living my purpose. And a lot of people don't really take the time to think about what inspires them. They don't really think about that at all. So I promise you, you will have more energy when you fill your day up more, even if it's like little bits and pieces, like a couple minutes here and there, with things that actually inspire you. So the last tip here, work towards your purpose and live a fulfilling life.
Now you're all fired up. Use these tools, use them wisely, and I guarantee you the more you begin to implement them and be consistent with it, the easier it will be to have more energy and be more excited. If you love this episode, what we ask is that you'd share it to like an Instagram story. We want everyone to be more energized, more excited, so they can become fitter, healthier, and happier. So on Spotify or iTunes, wherever you're listening, or YouTube, there's a quick, nice and easy share button. You can click stories. It'll share it all pretty. When you share it to your story and you make our day, make sure to tag us so we don't miss it. Our Instagram's @ClossesFit. I'd love to reshare it or just say thank you, because every share helps us grow and it makes me and Kyle really happy. And if you feel you've learned something and benefited from this episode, others will as well. So we definitely don't want them missing out. So if you could take 2 seconds to do that now, it would mean the world. Me and Kyle will be in your debt. But thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us today. Have a killer day and keep that energy nice and high.